Many thanks, Umaru. Let's go back to the ruling today from the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal. We had him earlier, but we had audio issues. We have him now, Professor of Law, Niger Delta University, Bayelsa State, Professor Kerewe Subai. Thank you very much, Prof, for joining us on Nigeria Tonight.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
What is your candid observation of today's proceedings? I asked you earlier, but you didn't hear me. Is this the expected outcome for you? Was this the expected outcome?
Yes, I can say definitely that a number of us are not, we're not surprised with the outcome. First of all, it's important to go back into history to know that from 1999 till the present day, no presidential election has been overturned at the tribunals, because it is actually a very, very Herculean task. The burden of proof, the standard of proof, and the extreme technicalities, if I will use that word, are very, very difficult to overturn. You know, so we thought that it would perhaps, and things may have changed a bit, but we were not very optimistic.
Okay, what are some of the key pronouncements for you today that you feel will have long-reaching implications?
For me, I think we still need time to study the judgment in detail, but the judges appear to perhaps have gone back into the whole of technicality, you know, asking the petitioners to prove virtually every detail, you know, of their claims. I think perhaps has made things even more difficult, because in law we have what we call circumstantial evidence. When evidence is very, very convincing and compelling, it's something that courts normally should look into. But from the judgment of today, it appears that the judges are imposing upon the petitioners the burden to prove every minute detail. And I think that is something perhaps the Supreme Court will have another opportunity to look at it again. But that, I think, is something that is quite notable.
A lot of persons have been pushing the narrative that it is historic in its own way because of the length of time it took the judges to read out their judgment. Does that have any significance for you for a presidential petition like this?
Yes, I think it's actually not surprising because of the ramifications of such a judgment. It is very important that the judges should go through all the points raised by the petitioners and the respondents as well, not leaving out the respondents, and rule on all of these points, because you know the country has been tensed. There have been concerns, even security issues, people canceling their flights and all that. So in order to see that justice has been done, it is important for the judges to give a very lengthy and detailed judgment. And you know they were quite different petitions filed from different petitioners, and the judges have to address each of these petitions. So yes, getting the judgment being so long is not unusual, because if you know, previous judgments have also been long. It's just that this one appears to have been a little bit longer.
You say, I mean, your colleagues and yourself, you need time to actually digest the ruling of the court. But then again, you also mentioned that there was a lot of tension, a lot of anticipation for this particular court ruling. How do you feel this ruling will impact public sentiments towards the judiciary?
Actually, it's the sentiment, public sentiments have already been fixed before the ruling. That is the truth. People who already have prejudices and predisposed convictions will not be swayed one way or the other. The ruling will only reinforce
Sorry to interject. Sorry to interject, but I want to explore your thoughts on that. When you say people's view of the judiciary has already been fixed, and then you have a hashtag and a trend that is saying all eyes on the judiciary, would that by implication mean that all eyes on the judiciary depends on who is saying all eyes on the judiciary?
You know, there is a popular statement that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Most people, depending on the divide upon which they stand, will interpret this judgment from their beliefs. Most of the people that will analyze the judgment will already do so on the basis of sentiment. Either you are against or you are for. They will not take time to look into the details of the judgment. And that is why it is important that experts should then take their time to understudy the judgment against the arguments proffered by the lawyers on both sides, and be able to probably advise the public if the judgment actually is sound. But for now, people have already passed their judgments, like I said, based on their preconceived notions without necessarily looking into the nitty-gritty. But we need time to study the judgment, and then I'm sure that a lot of scholarly articles will also be written about the judgment. But like we said, there's still room for appeal. There's room for appeal. So
do you think
the last has not been heard of this?
Okay, so you're expecting the Labour Party has already rejected the ruling, and then we've not heard from the PDP, but you're thinking now they're going to proceed to the Supreme Court?
Yes, definitely. Without a tinge of doubt, I want to believe that in the next few days we'll hear about their appeals.
Okay, let's not predict what the Supreme Court will do. Let's just see what happens in the coming days. I'm hoping we'll have you on the news again. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you for having me.